Hey everybody, I'm Jason, the creator of the Army Showcase and host of the Tabletop Battlefield over at tabletopbattlefield.com. And today in Green Gaming, we're going to go ahead and start building some all-natural bases. Welcome back to episode 3 of Green Gaming presented by the Tabletop Battlefield over at tabletopbattlefield.com. And if you never watched the show before, these are basically short little clips, the idea of trying to take an environmental approach to miniature wargaming, which usually involves building a project out of trash or some other kind of things like that. So one of my goals in the show is actually to create, quote, all-natural bases. So, whenever you paint figures up, you always want to give them really cool bases. But what I'm trying to do is find ways to actually replace a lot of the flocking we use with actually kind of, quote, I say, all-natural things. Like, for example, leaves, dirt, gravel, just kind of stuff you can find around your house where you don't have to pay money for. It's all just basically all natural. So we're taking a step in that direction today, because what we're actually going to do is create these little ferns that are sitting on my stealth team base here. They're neat little, kind of very simple to build, easy little fern-like plants you can actually use either on bases, like I got here, kind of my little guy hiding behind it, or you can actually use that in the terrain for the battlefield. So the things you're going to need today are one, a plastic straw. Now I'd like to say you can reuse a drinking straw you already used, but to be honest with you, that's kind of nasty. So this guy really, if you found some way to clean them out, go ahead and use them, but it is kind of nasty to reuse drinking straws. Item number 2 is just going to be some tag board. Here, once again, this is the back of a food container, so I usually like to use my tag board things. We got a hot glue gun sitting over here. I'm going to use that to assemble everything. Scissors for cutting stuff up. And finally, we have pine needles. These are just pine needles I walked outside and pulled off a pine tree outside. And they are just what the fern's going to be made out of. So step 1, what you're going to do is take the straw and cut off a very small piece of it, less than maybe a quarter of an inch at the most. Oops, that goes flying up. So when you cut it off, you're going to have a very tiny little piece of straw like this that I'm showing the camera right now. Let's bring that back over onto the piece of cardboard that you're going to use. Cut off a relatively small segment. You're going to maybe a half an inch by half an inch at most. You don't need very big. You're going to set that little piece down. Set down the straw on top of it. We're actually going to apply just a dab of hot glue in there to kind of glue it in place. Not too much hot glue, just something to kind of hold it in place for a minute or two while you get the pine needles ready. So take a clump of pine needles that you want to use to make the fern, and do your best to kind of even them out such that the bottom of the pine needles are all kind of together as best you can. So you can see here I'm just kind of mashing them together to try to get the length of them all kind of even. And then holding the pine needles near wherever the bottom is going to be, you want to take your scissors and cut them off so they're all equal, leaving maybe about a quarter of an inch at the bottom here. So as you see, I cut them off equal, about a quarter inch from my fingers. This is going to be the bottom that goes into the little glue thing. Go back to your little straw cardboard emplacement, take some more hot glue, and just douse hot glue in the little straw thing. And then take your pine needles and just kind of stick them down in there as best you can, holding them close to as close as you can to the bottom there, and really just play the waiting game. Once the glue is dried, you're going to have something that looks like this, where it's just got the little piece of cardboard, the straw down there, and a whole bunch of glue with all the pine needles sticking out of it. So what you want to do is take your scissors now and cut out separate the straw from the base. So I'm just kind of cutting off all the excess cardboard at this point and glue. There we go. So now I've just got the straw with the pine needle sticking out of it, and you can kind of trim this down a little bit because you want to get it as slim as possible without hopefully not doing too much damage to glue where the whole thing falls apart on you. Alright, so I've got rid of most of the straw as best I can, and let's just go ahead to finish it up, cut a little bit more of the straw base off. As you see here, I'm about to cut off the end of the base. With only a little bit of glue kind of holding the whole thing together. Hopefully that's enough. And now you're pretty much ready to go ahead and stick this thing down on the base. What you might want to consider doing, depending on the height of the figure, you can go ahead and cut off the tops of the pine needles if you so desire. Just kind of go quick snip and snip them off. And also, to kind of hide the rest of the base, sometimes it makes it a little bit easier if you put maybe some little bit larger flockings, little bushes around the actual base of the straw where it attaches to the base, and that'll kind of hide this little blue straw part. Or maybe, kind of use some green putty to make a little mound around like it's a little bit at the top of a little hill or something. You can get a little fancy with that and creative. But just like that, you can go ahead and now you can start creating some neat little ferns to use for your miniature war games made pretty much out of all natural parts. Once again, I'm Jason. Thanks for watching this episode of Green Gaming presented by the Tabletop Battlefield. For more information on the world of miniature war games, whether it be reviews, tactics, news, and other kind of crazy projects, or if you want to submit your own content, go over to tabletopbattlefield.com and check out the Army Showcase and Tabletop Battlefield podcast.